So we've got a pretty interesting video for you guys today. So in this one, we're going to be going over an interview that was hosted by the WoW Community Council, and they interviewed both Ian Hazzikostas, who is the game director for World of Warcraft, as well as Jeremy Feasel, the lead game designer for World of Warcraft, and the principal game designer at Blizzard Entertainment. And the topic for this interview was mainly about small group content, solo content, open world content, stuff like that. And I think this interview in general has provided a lot of insight into, how Blizzard approaches things. And I also think this gives us some pretty good insight as to what the next expansion is going to look like when it comes to, outdoor content, solo content, etc. And real quick before we actually get into this interview, be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe to the channel, so that way you guys are one of the first to always know when my new videos go live. So the first question that was asked was this: do you have any thoughts about the trading post feeling increasingly expensive when combined with the ability to pre-purchase upcoming assets? So their answer to this was, the overall cost of things isn't increasing over time, but the amount of things in the catalog is increasing. But that's okay, because they are going to be adding back catalog items at a later date. They're also looking at providing additional ways for players to earn trader tenders in the game. The trading post isn't something that they're looking to use as a major vector for monetization. They're still going to be going forward with adding bundles to the game, like traders tenders and expansion pre-orders, things like that. There were some smaller bundles for tender, but those were apparently just an experiment, and they have no plans in the short term to do those. And then they're also planning to rotate every item back into the traders post at some point. So the next question was, there are many different types of events, from short-term to long-term events, to events that are quick versus take a longer time. How do you choose what to do next? So their answer to this was that there are some groups that they definitely like to focus on, especially when it comes to outdoor content. They also need to consider the progression scheme for that expansion, and they also try to make sure that the content isn't targeting the same group of people over and over and over again. When it comes to outdoor content, the silent majority is thrown around for a reason. They may be frustrated or bored, not be engaged, and they don't hear that directly. It is a possibility to allow players to do something to make the rare or content harder, similar to the Headless Horseman. The next question was, will players be able to make their own dragon riding races? And they said that they've talked about how they want to evolve dragon riding in the future, and that it's one of the things that they've been talking about. There are some technical limitations, but it is on the list of things to do. Our next question was, any plans to help newer players catch up on lore, especially with some important events or books? They said that it's definitely a weakness for sure. They've talked recently about how to integrate in-game mechanisms for getting people caught up. However, they said that they don't know if gameplay lore is actually the best way to do this in particular, and they said that in-game journals, cinematics, things that don't require you to go on YouTube, are things that they're generally talking about and wanting to do moving forward. With the holiday refreshes, new rewards dropped from the bosses. For future years, will those still drop, and will there be any bad luck protection? They said that they're always looking for what the right solution is for bringing things back and not feeling like it's a waste of time for players. They think that they missed the mark on the drop rate for Arthas this year, and they think that it was a little too low. Some of the things that they want to do for the future will be things like with the 19th anniversary, the Illidari Doomhawk was on the vendor rather than the boss, which makes it feel like it was a little bit more accessible over time, while still maintaining some feeling of needing to hit that jackpot. In the future, they're leaning more in the direction of making things more accessible for players. No plans in the near future of doing anything in the direction of Heartbreaker, or aka the Big Love Rocket, and they're heading more in the direction of, we'll give you cool things this year, and then next year you'll get even more cool things. And they said that they are kind of hesitant to make big changes to things like the Heartbreaker, just due to the intrinsic value that players have put over that item. How do you plan on balancing the difficulty and accessibility of the content with the reward structure? They bear in mind organizational requirements when thinking about rewards. A Mythic raid boss will drop better loot, and the other source, Mythic Plus, will get it from Revolt. Delves in the War Within will have a cap on heroic raid level items because it's soloable content. They don't know if they can tune it in a fun way, or even if they can. It wouldn't compare to the organizational requirement of larger group content. If they offer the exact same rewards without having people needing to, get a group together, schedule time to raid, make friends, then people will always just go towards the path of least resistance, which is actually harmful to the social aspects of the game. However, they did say that they do want to make every path rewarding on its own. Tier acquisition is still in an awkward place. for the example of having to run multiple difficulties because the item level just doesn't matter there. And they said that there may be something more elegant in the works for the War Within expansion. They said that they're still working out the details, but it's likely to see changes on how tier is actually obtained going forward. Any plans for class/race holidays? There has been a great amount of engagement from the player holidays. There's some existing holidays that need to be refreshed, i.e. Midsummer, but they would love to do more new holidays in the future. And they said that micro holidays were the start of updating holidays many years ago. Is there an update to archaeology in the War Within? To this question, they said that the triangulation minigame from archaeology is not likely to return. The idea of archaeology is something that they definitely want to work towards, and the Azerothian archives will be something to look forward to in 10.2.5. Will the progress on achievements be combined across all characters? To this one, they said that is definitely the goal. You may need to log in on each character that you have to, personally progress that. But once you guys log into all those characters, the idea is that it should be retroactive on any other characters going forward. How will Dragonflight's public events, Super Bloom, researchers be handled in the next expansion at lower player counts? To this one, they said that that's something that they're definitely talking about. Longer term, they'd like to have the green eye that allows you to quickly jump into a group to do it for the event. For the launch, they'd prefer to avoid doing that because shard hopping with brand new zones is kind of bad. And they did say that they do think some of those events would actually be really cool for leveling. What are the plans for professions going forward? Overall, they said that they're actually pretty happy with how professions are right now. There's going to be some small tweaks going forward with things such as work orders being more reliably available. And then they said that they're going to expect the same level of depth and value in crafting in the War Within. Most public events, you just need to tag the final boss. Any plans to address this? And here they said that it's something that they definitely do think about, but they don't want to try working on solving it at the expense of natural player behavior. And they said that on the flip side, certain players actually get there late, so being able to just tag the boss before it's finished is, at least a nice touch. And it would be really frustrating for those players to show up and not put in enough contribution to get credit. Plans to allow players to solo BFA raids. They said here that they're definitely making plans to pass on the mechanics for the BFA raids before Dragonflight is actually done. There are stories of players farming a dungeon 30 to 50 plus times for a desired item due to bad luck. What is the average acceptable time to farm an item? And do you guys have any plans to add a triggered farming option to an account for bad luck? And they said here that there's no plans for that and that it's random. Odds are 7 to 8% chance to get that particular item that you need from the loot pool. And they said with thousands of players, there are some extreme outliers, but that's kind of on either side of the spectrum. They said that they try to be mindful on how these items are balanced against each other. Like if there's a trinket that's just 25% better than anything else out there, that's definitely a problem with trinket tuning. What's the difference between Warbound and Account Bound? Warbound items are tradable until equipped, and then Warbound will drop at a much higher item level than what you're used to. Think like if you're running high keys right now, you can just literally get a piece of 460 item level gear and just hand it off to an alt. And they said that it should never feel required to have multiple alts to just hand off gear to your main. This is more of just kind of like an extra accessory type thing. And then the last question was, are there any plans on ensemble transmog bundles being sold individually? And they said here that as things rotate back into the trading post, they will take a look at some of the ensembles that may work better individually, and they wanted to start them off as ensembles as if they were sold from them individually, and it's pretty easy to miss the pieces. So translation, that's probably a maybe. And that concludes the interview from the WoW Community Council with Ian and Jeremy Feasel. I love it when Blizzard does these interview type things. It just gives us more, insight on, what they're doing, and I really hope that they start to do more of this stuff in the future. But anyways, that should wrap up this video. Let me know in the comments section what you guys thought about this interview. Do you guys think these are good questions or not? Either way, let me know because I love to hear from you guys. Thanks again for watching. I'm still Solo, and I will see you guys in the next video.